Okay, this is Chapter 5 Schools and Technology, and we're going to have the following learning outcomes: identify the components of a typical computer classroom system and their application in the classroom, describe the functions of classroom computers and peripherals, determine the role of networking and enhancing the capabilities of classroom computers, and always identify the opportunities and challenges associated with computer integration. As teachers, you are the first responders for support with with the computers in your classroom. So you need to be able to handle and identify, just some basic stuff, and when you're going to have to call the person, the IT person support to come in. But you should be literate enough to know enough about computers to be able to handle, small things. Um, the typical computer is intake, input, output. Um, hardware hardware takes in the data, processes it, and then directs it somewhere. Um, there's also this thing called RAM, and that's random access memory. And what that is whenever you hit copy, whenever you hit that print screen, because you want to do a screenshot and then paste that on a Word document, that stuff's going into RAM, random access memory. If you ever wrote a paper and didn't save, I've done this several times throughout my life. I would start writing a paper, I didn't save, and something happened to the computer. And when I went to get my document, it was not there, or not all of it was there. It's very irritating. That's why you should save and save often. However, when you are typing and you have not saved it to a hard disk or a jump drive or a cloud or whatever, it goes into random access memory, and that is just a chip inside the computer, that just stores the stuff until you shut the computer down, or you empty the clipboard or whatnot. So um, that will be on the quiz. What is random access memory? Long term memory, that's the stuff we do save on the hard drive, or CDs, or flash drives, so forth, or in a cloud or something like that. And then, of course, software. The hardware uses software to do whatever, and that can be um, the OS drives, the Windows 10 that we have on the computers in the classroom, the OS Sierra, which I have on this Mac, um, the operating systems, but it can also be Microsoft Office, Adobe Photoshop, whatever. When we go to buy hardware, computers, and such, at a school district, it can be difficult to do. Generally, the state provides that money, but the schools actually have to show that they are using that money wisely. They get budgets every year, and generally, there's usually a 3 to 5 year turnaround on computers. In other words, they're going to buy them every uh, 3 to 5 years. At a school like FAMU, they're supposed to be switched out every 2 years. The computers we have in the classroom have been there for 4 years. So sometimes stuff doesn't go the way we want it to, but because it's very complex. There's a lot of money. Where's the money coming from? But when they do get the money, they do stuff with hardware and software in terms of bids. Companies will bid to give whoever the best price, in addition to support and other compatibility issues, and other bells and whistles. Um, it takes a lot of planning, and districts usually have committees. Schools have committees, so my classroom teachers you may be on this type of committee that buys this stuff. Um, so that's why teachers have to deal with a lot of different types of hardware and software. You might get in a classroom that has, two HPs, a Casio, a couple of Macs, and some other hodgepodge stuff. So you're going to have to know how to use all that stuff. Um, Input devices, it's pretty simple stuff. Keyboard, pointing devices, mice, mouses, those stuff. They can be wired or wireless. And some keyboards may be used as assistive devices to help students with special needs. We kind of talked about that last week. And then we can um, to help to give some reasonable accommodation to these students. Um, the pointer devices, I mean, this is pretty basic stuff that you should know. Mouse, trackballs, which we don't use that much anymore. They used to be a big thing, and you can look that up on the internet. And then touchpads are more common on something like a laptop. And then you can adjust through the operating system whether you want the mouse to move fast, the cursor on the screen to move fast, and all that type of thing. Output devices are monitors, printers, those types of things. Resolution is something I will show in the classroom, but it's just how many pixels, which stands for picture element, there are in a 1 inch by 1 inch square. We have typically 1920 by 1080, which is essentially, if you can see my mouse, 1920 by 1080, and then one square inside of that would be what we would look at resolution as. Typically, if this was a photograph, the screen, you could take a 1 inch by 1 inch square and blow it all up, and you would see little squares. Those are called pixels, picture elements. So again, that'll be something I will show you in the class. Printer's the second most common output device, and we have all kinds of printers we use. Inkjet printers are inexpensive, and they're really good resolution printers. The printers nowadays you can go out and buy are very cheap, and they've got all the bells and whistles, a scanner, fax, wireless, all these things, and they're cheap. They're cheap because the people that are making the printers, such as HP, are getting money from the ink. That's where they get all their money at, because the ink's expensive and it runs out really quick. Laser printers are different. They use toner, which is really like a fine graphite, like on a pencil. If you rub the pencil against something hard, you'll see the graphite come off of it. That's basically what it is. And when the paper goes through, it's electrostatically charged, and the graphite sticks to it, and then it's heated on. Laser printers cost more, and the toners cost more. The ink toner, it's not ink, it's toner, but it costs more, but it lasts a lot longer. You get a lot more bang for your buck. The basic computer system has primary components. There's ports in the back that you plug stuff into, like your mouse and all those printer and all those types of things in the back of your computers. Those are called ports. There is a thing called the motherboard, and on there is the CPU, which is Central Processing Unit, and that's the chip that is the brain of the computer that really determines the speed of how fast these things go. And nowadays, that wasn't a bit. It's not a big issue. We have good CPUs now, and things run pretty fast. And we get really mad when you know we have to wait for something. I'll tell you horror stories of CPU problems I've had in my lifetime in the classroom. Again, the random access memory is temporary storage. Those are banks of chips in the computers, and we'll look at those in the classroom. Um, you need to be aware of what your computers can do. So um, we have two basic operating systems in this world. There are a couple outliers, but the two main ones are you know Windows and Mac. So you really need to know both of them. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Windows, but you should start finding Mac. There's a lot of Macs on campus. You should play with them if you don't know about them, particularly if you're going to be a teacher. Software may have upward and downward capability. Upward, obviously, is going from from Windows 7 to 8 to 9 to 10. But sometimes you got to go downward to make uh, some outdated software work. So you can go downward in that aspect. Storage, mostly we're using hard drives. Uh, we have external hard drives, we have flash drives, we have all that type of stuff. But a lot of flash drives and stuff like that are not being used anymore. And the question would be why? Well, the question is cloud computing. So if use Google, Yahoo, whatever, you're essentially using a cloud. Anything you do is saved on saved in their computer storage systems. Blackboard is kind of a cloud. TaskStream is a kind of a cloud because you're actually sending something. Whenever you upload an assignment to Blackboard, you're sending it to their corporate computers, and it's being saved there. That's essentially what a cloud is. Um, I use a thing called Dropbox. Some of you are probably familiar with that. That's just, I save my stuff to somewhere. I have no idea where it is in the world, but my stuff is saved to some hard drive somewhere in the world, but it's secure, and um, I can access it from any computer, which is the beauty of cloud computing. Um, Malware, viruses and things, spy programs and stuff like that. Um, our antivirus programs are really good nowadays, but back in the day, they were really threats. You were probably way too young for this stuff, but in the late '90s, early 2000, particularly at 2000 at the millennium, there was a big scare that all the computers were just going to crash. But around then, you would see the news, and there would be this Trojan horse that's coming out, and everybody's freaking out over it because, it gets in your computer, and essentially screws everything up, and you have to erase everything and redo uh, put in the operating system again, and all your stuff you have is lost. And back in the day, it was a big problem. Today, we have really good antivirus programs. We don't have to worry about that stuff too much. Portable storage, we really don't use that much anymore. CD-ROMs and read and write things, we don't use that much anymore. Um, so just read this part of your book. I think there's a question on it. You just don't use this stuff much anymore. If you buy a brand new computer, there's not going to be a CD player in it. I bought a brand new Mac Air like 4 years ago, and it didn't have the CD-ROM in it. So Portable storage, again, external hard drives, cloud drives, online storage. And you also have access to a cloud for free just through your FAMU mail. It's called OneDrive. So I want to show you all that stuff in class. Network storage. Some schools have their own hard drives within a school district that they save stuff to. It's kind of their own little cloud. You would get trained on how to use that. Sometimes they're networked that you don't have to use the internet to do it. But again, you would be trained in something like that. Networking schools, we have all different types of ways to network. It's usually done through a green cable called an Ethernet cable, and it's hooked to a server. And that server is hooked to the regional server, which is hooked to the national server, which is hooked to the world server. So, Leon County's hooked into Tallahassee, it's hooked into Florida, which is into the Southwest Regional, and the Southwest Regional is hooked into the National, and the National is hooked into North American, and North American's hooked into Global. So it's that's kind of the way the network works in terms of internet. But servers, run the show. In the classroom that you're in now, there is a server in the closet that runs all the computers in there. And if you look under your desk, you will see a green wire that goes into the floor. And that floor has pipes under it, and it goes into the closet and hooks up to the server. So everything's networked. I'll show you all that too in the classroom. We can use networking to do things like emails and shared calendars and that type of stuff. We generally don't do that much anymore because we're using these highfalutin email systems like Outlook Express that we use at FAMU, like Google, like Yahoo, and those types of things that really do all these things for us. So we really don't network that much anymore in a custom-made world inside a school district. The challenges and opportunities, well, the opportunities are we are preparing 21st century students with technology skills they need. We're trying to provide individualized learning through multimedia tutorial teaching and other software. We're using technology to give information beyond the class walls. And we support teacher task and teacher instruction. And of course, 2 of the 4 C's, encourage collaboration and communication. Obviously, the challenges are teachers and students need to be computer literate. They are mainly computer literate, but they have to be educationally computer literate. Money, they have to have adequate money to make computer technology broadly available. They have to plan, and then teachers have to be trained. So all that stuff. This is kind of an easy chapter. Read the book, get the more information, and take the quiz. Thank you so much.